The bloody and barbaric attacks against Jews from Muslim terrorists in Israel has triggered a fierce response. We'll talk with CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell with the latest from Jerusalem Live. And Republicans are preparing their speaker forum to select a new Speaker of the House. Will they work together this week? Founder of the Mass Exodus Movement, Keisha King, joins us on this and more. But first, let's go to Fior Hernandez with the headlines. Fior.
Greg, as the fighting between Iranian-backed Hamas militants and Israeli soldiers continues, one day after the surprise terrorist attack from Gaza, a meeting of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet made it official on Sunday. Israel is at war. And now reports indicate Israel has ordered a total blockade of Gaza with an invasion by IDF just hours away. Saturday's surprise attack has left more than 800 Israelis and at least 9 Americans dead. The majority of the Israeli deaths are reportedly civilians, with dozens of soldiers among the dead. At least 260 were said to be young people enjoying a music festival. At last report, the number of Israelis wounded in the attack, which included as many as 3,500 rockets, is more than 2,000. In addition, dozens, perhaps as many as 100 Israelis were reportedly taken across the border into Gaza, where they are being held hostage. Yoni Asher told News Nation his wife and children were taken by Hamas.
I want to ask of Hamas, don't hurt them. Don't hurt little children. Don't hurt women. If you want me instead, I'm willing to come.
A number of Americans who live in Israel are also believed to be among those being held captive by Hamas. U.S. Senator from New Jersey Cory Booker was in Jerusalem's Old City when the attack began, but he was not hurt. As of late Sunday, fighting continued in southern Israel, with pockets of Palestinian militants still in the country. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has begun to retaliate with missiles and bombs, leveling high-rises in Gaza City and homes belonging to leaders of Hamas. The Israelis did warn civilians to evacuate certain areas before the attacks began. As for reports of casualties from the Israeli attacks, the Ministry of Health in Gaza says so far 413 Palestinians have been killed, with most of those being Hamas fighters. As for what's next, the Israeli military has moved tanks toward Gaza, but it is not yet clear if a full-scale ground assault will take place. Efforts are most certainly underway to find and free any hostages. On Israel's northern border with Lebanon, Hezbollah has also been exchanging fire with IDF soldiers. It's not clear if fighting on that second front will escalate, but a U.S. carrier group, the USS Gerald Ford, is moving into the eastern Mediterranean to keep that from happening. While the focus remains on freeing hostages, defending Israel, and retaliating from the massive amount of casualties, some are calling Saturday's attack Israel's 9/11.
It's our 9/11. We should all understand it. It's our 9/11, and from today on, things will never be in Israel as they were. But we are strong. We are a resilient people. We've gone through hardships, and we will win also this war. We will prevail.
According to the Wall Street Journal, for weeks, Iranian security officials were helping Hamas plan the terrorist attack. And while the UN Security Council did hold an emergency meeting on Sunday, with the United States demanding all 15 members strongly condemn the terrorist attack by Hamas, no immediate action was taken, meaning at least one country objected. We will be airing a special edition of Flashpoint at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central on the Victory Channel, also online at victorychannel.com. Mike?
For months, many around Washington were wondering why the Biden administration's envoy for Iranian affairs was suspended from his position. Now it appears we know why. According to news reports, Rob Malley was allegedly working closely with a high-level Iranian spy ring busted in Washington. The investigation into Malley led to his losing his security clearance in April of this year. The State Department said it was connected to the possible mishandling of classified information. But a recent article in Tablet magazine claims Malley helped to fund, support, and direct an Iranian intelligence operation designed to influence the United States, according to a trove of Iranian government emails. And journalist Lee Smith is the author of the Tablet magazine article.
This is quite clearly espionage. We know it because we have evidence of an email tranche between high-ranking Iranian officials, including this one IRGC official, the former foreign minister of Iran, Javad Zarif, as well as these, I believe there were between 6 and 10 operatives, Iranian operatives, seated into different Western capitals, including Washington, D.C., our own.
Lee explains that the emails revealed 3 of Robert Malley's aides were part of an Iranian government network and had affiliations with the Tehran-backed Iran Experts Initiative. One of those aides is Ariane Tabatabai. She reportedly still holds her position in the Biden administration.
She is the chief of staff for the Deputy Secretary of State, Deputy Secretary of Defense for Special Operations, meaning that she has top secret and compartmentalized clearances, giving her access to the most sensitive information that the American government holds.
Tablet Magazine reports the State Department rejected the spy ring characterization in the reporting of the story. Tim.
Mike, meanwhile, the staff at the White House didn't let the deadly attacks in Israel stop them from holding a celebration. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley tweeted, "While Hamas holds Americans hostage, Joe Biden is enjoying a picnic with a live band." The report that is part of Hawley's tweet talks about a reporter hearing a live band coming from the White House from the area of the Rose Garden. When asked about it, the White House responded, "The President and the First Lady are hosting a barbecue for White House executive resident staff and their families." Greg?
Joe Biden is receiving blistering criticism for his likely role in funding the brutal attacks in Israel from Muslim terrorists. When the Biden administration negotiated the release of American prisoners from Iran, we offered to return $6 billion of frozen assets to Iran for humanitarian use only. But Iran's president, Ibrahim Raisi, told NBC News that they would spend the money anyway and anywhere they wanted.
This money belongs to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and naturally we will decide, the Islamic Republic of Iran will decide to spend it wherever we need it.
As Newsweek reports, Canadian journalist Daniel Boardman wrote on social media that after Biden allowed the money to be released to Iran, quote, now Hamas, one of the terrorist proxies they brag openly about funding, is launching a sophisticated, expensive attack on Israel. Foreign policy matters, end quote. Jake Wallace-Simons, editor of the Jewish Chronicle, added this: Hamas is being funded and equipped by Tehran, which the U.S. has been appeasing and enabling in recent months as billions of dollars had flowed into the regime's coffers. And as always here at Victory News, we remind you to use discernment and wisdom when interpreting mainstream media reports, as they're already doing what is customary when Israel is attacked: blame the Jewish state. In this crucial time, continue prayer for the peace and God's divine intervention in this matter. Mike?
Joining us now from Jerusalem is CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. Chris, the Jerusalem Post reports this morning the IDF has launched more than 1,000 airstrikes on Gaza as of this morning. Are there any updates to that? And have all the Hamas fighters, do we know the ones that were in Israel, have they been defeated or captured?
Well, the IDF is saying right now that along those communities that had been taken over by Hamas, that they're back in the control of the IDF. As you said, 1,000 airstrikes in Gaza. It's a prelude to perhaps a ground invasion. 300,000 Israelis have been called up as reservists. The prelude perhaps to a major ground incursion into Gaza. I think the sense over here, Mike, is that they want to eliminate Hamas once and for all as a threat on its southern border. For years, they have been taking rockets and doing surgical strikes. But things have changed after this weekend with nearly 800 or more Israelis murdered, almost 3,000 injured. It's really a game changer here in the land, Mike.
Yeah, and Chris, the Israeli defense minister ordered a complete siege of Gaza. Define that for us, and will you bring a stop to the attacks, do you believe, from Gaza?
Well, I don't know if it's going to bring a stop to the attacks. I think in the long term it will. Many people may not realize that the food and the water and the electricity for Gaza and ruled by Hamas, a terrorist organization, has been provided for Israel for years. There's checkpoints in there that they go in. They do have a sea blockade to prevent more arms and weapons going into the Gaza Strip. But the siege is probably one of the weapons in the arsenal of Israel to stop these kind of carnage that's happened in the last few days in this invasion. Again, one of the things that we expect that might be a prelude to a ground invasion. Some people have said maybe within 48 hours.
And Chris, the Wall Street Journal is reporting senior members of both Hamas and Hezbollah stated Iranian officials gave the green light for the attacks in a meeting in Beirut last week. What are you hearing in Israel regarding Iran's involvement in this?
Well, I think that's one of the main things that people need to realize, that this is not an isolated thing by Hamas. They have been equipped, funded, trained, and much of this plot by Hamas has been orchestrated by Tehran. Many people here in Israel, they expect that what Tehran is really trying to spread its tentacles throughout the Middle East. Not only Hamas on Israel's southern border, Hezbollah on its northern border, Hezbollah militias and other Islamist militias inside Syria, even the Houthis as far away as Yemen. This is this ring of fire that Iran wants to surround Israel with and eventually eliminate what they call the Zionist entity and the Jewish state. So connecting these dots between Hamas and Iran is very important for people to understand. Even the Hamas spokesperson has said he's thanking Iran for the support it's given to them.
And Chris, do you think Joe Biden's release of $6 billion in funds 3 weeks ago emboldened Iran to fuel the attack on Israel?
Very much so, Mike, and I think people over here are shaking their heads. How can the United States unleash these $6 billion that had been frozen for many years and give that to the leading state sponsor of terror in the world? Now, whether or not that weapons, that $6 billion funded exactly this particular invasion remains to be seen, but it certainly appeased Iran, and it certainly did embolden the enemies of Israel, and especially Hamas, to carry out this incursion, this invasion. It's really this kind of appeasement that many people here are troubled by and concerned that it's emboldening Iran as it races to get a nuclear weapon, and they're not that far away.
And how should we and our viewers be praying to support Israel right now?
Well, pray, like Timothy says, the book of Timothy, to pray for wisdom for the leadership right now. They're facing enormous challenges with both the military perspective and also these hostages. And pray, we just interviewed a man named Rick Ridings with Sukkot Hillel. It's a 24/7 prayer ministry here in Jerusalem. He's praying two things: that this evil that's going on right now in the Gaza Strip, not only threatening Israel, but the people of Gaza as well, that it would be uprooted. And also that what was happening now, this war, would be constrained and restrained, that it won't escalate into even a World War III. So those are two kind of things you could pray about. And I add one thing more, Mike. Robert Stearns of Eagles Wing Ministry was here, and he's saying people need to right now not only pray to be like watchmen on the walls, but also reach out to your Jewish friends, to your local synagogue. Encourage the Jewish people now, because they feel it all over the world, and help be a comfort to them, as Isaiah chapter 40 says, comfort ye my people.
Good advice. Chris Mitchell with CBN News, thank you for your reporting.